Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Daredevil TV series. Marvel's Daredevil, or simply Daredevil, is an American web television series created for Netflix by Drew Goddard, based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. It is set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, sharing continuity with the films of the franchise, and is the first in a series of shows that will lead up to the Defenders crossover miniseries. The series is produced by Marvel Television in association with ABC Studios and Goddard Textiles, with Denite Productions for the first season. Stephen S. Denite serves as showrunner on the first season, with Doug Petrie and Marco Ramirez taking over for the second. Goddard serves as a consultant on both seasons. Charlie Cox stars as Matt Murdock, Daredevil, a blind lawyer by day who fights crime at night. Daredevil entered development in late 2013, a year after the film rights to the character reverted to Marvel, with Goddard initially hired in December 2013. Denite replaced him as showrunner, and Cox was hired to star in May 2014, with Deborah Ann Woll, Eldon Henson, Rosario Dawson, and Vincent D'Onofrio also starring. Additional Season 1 stars include Toby Leonard Moore, Vondi Curtis Hall, Bob Gunton, and Islet Jura, while John Bernal, Elodie Young, and Steven Ryder join the cast for Season 2. Filming takes place in New York City, in areas that still look like the old Hell's Kitchen. All episodes of the first season were released on Netflix on April 10, 2015, while the second season was released in its entirety on March 18, 2016. In July 2016, the series was renewed for a third season, a spin-off series centered on Bernal's character Frank Castle. Punisher, entitled Marvel's The Punisher, was ordered by Netflix in April 2016. Premise: the first season sees lawyer by day Matt Murdock use his heightened senses, from being blinded as a young boy to fight crime at night on the streets of New York City Hell's Kitchen neighborhood as Daredevil, while uncovering a conspiracy of the criminal underworld being led by Wilson Fisk. In the second season, Murdock continues to balance life as a lawyer and Daredevil, while crossing paths with Frank Castle, Punisher, a vigilante with far deadlier methods, as well as the return of his old girlfriend, Elektra Natchios. Season 3. The series was renewed for a third season in July 2016. Initially thought to be released in 2017. Netflix Ted Sarandos stated shortly after the announcement that the season would not debut until 2018 at the earliest, after Marvel's The Defenders is released on August 18, 2017. Development. In April 2013, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige confirmed that the film rights to Daredevil and his associated characters reverted to Marvel from 20th Century Fox in October 2012, allowing those characters to be used within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As explained by head of Marvel Television Jeff Loeb in 2015, Marvel Studios had first dibs on the character once the rights had reverted. Drew Goddard pitched a new Daredevil film to Marvel, but Marvel was not looking to create an R-rated film, and Goddard did not want a watered-down version of the character. As he also explained in 2015, "I went into Marvel and talked to them about making it as a movie a couple of years ago, long after the Affleck movie. But what we all sort of realized is that this movie doesn't want to cost $200 million. The thing about Matt Murdock is, he's not saving the world. He's just keeping his corner clean." so it would feel wrong to have spaceships crashing in the middle of the city. But because of that, Marvel on the movie side is not in the business of making $25 million movies. They're going big, as they should. Marvel Studios eventually decided that the character would be better served in a television series. In October 2013, Deadline reported that Marvel was preparing for a drama series and a mini-series, totaling 60 episodes, to present to video-on-demand services and cable providers, with Netflix, Amazon and WGN America expressing interest. A few weeks later, Marvel and Disney announced that Marvel Television and ABC Studios would provide Netflix with live-action series centered around Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage, leading up to a mini-series based on the Defenders. This format was chosen due to the success of Marvel's The Avengers, for which the characters of Iron Man, the Hulk, Captain America, and Thor were all introduced separately before being teamed up in that film. In December, Goddard was officially hired as executive producer and showrunner for Daredevil. But Marvel announced in May 2014 that he had stepped down from the role to focus on directing a feature film based on Marvel's Sinister Six for Sony Pictures Entertainment. Goddard, who wrote the first 2 episodes of the series, remained with the show as a consultant and executive producer, while Stephen S. DeKnight took over as showrunner. Marvel revealed that the series would officially be titled Marvel's Daredevil, with DeKnight, Goddard, Loeb, Jim Corey, Dan Buckley, Joe Quesada, Stan Lee, Alan Fine, Cindy Harland, Chris Henigman, Ali Goss, and Peter Friedlander serving as executive producers. In April 2015, Marvel and Netflix announced that Daredevil had been renewed for a second season, but DeKnight would not be returning due to prior commitments. He was replaced as showrunner by Doug Petrie and Marco Ramirez, who served as writers for the first season and worked closely with DeKnight and Goddard. Petrie, Ramirez, Allison Engel, and Mark Verheiden joined the executive producing team for the second season, while Friedlander also left the show. The series was renewed for a third season in July 2016, with Petrie and Ramirez returning as showrunners. Writing. On choosing to write the character and develop the series initially, Goddard said, "With Matt Murdock I just had such a personal connection to that character, it was just like, I have to do this, I don't want to be a guy that just takes the comics and then shoots them on screen. I think it's our job to treat it as if it's our run. If I'm the writer of a comic book, you wouldn't just retell someone else's story. You would just take that ball and move it forward." In August 2014, when talking about the series in comparison to the 2003 film, Ted Sarandos said, "The series will not be afraid to go darker than the film did. What we love about this particular set of heroes is that they're a little more down to earth, costume-wise, and also in that these are gritty crime stories, more in the streets than in the clouds." Elaborating on this, DeKnight said, "It is a little grittier and edgier than Marvel has gone before, but we're not looking to push it to extreme graphic violence, gratuitous nudity or anything like that. The story does not require that, and I think it would suffer if you pushed it that far." Marvel Television head and executive producer Loeb later stated that, "There aren't going to be people flying through the sky, there are no magic hammers. We've always approached this as a crime drama first, superhero show second." DeKnight took inspiration from The French Connection, Dog Day Afternoon, and Taxi Driver, and stated that, "We would rather lean toward The Wire than what's considered a classic superhero television show." Loeb compared the series' approach to telling stories over multiple seasons to the world of publishing, where you have the Frank Miller, you have the Brian Bendis runs, you have the Ed Brubaker run. I was lucky enough to do Daredevil, Yellow, but they feel different. They have different elements to them. Same cast, in many cases, same tone, but a different adventure. You can watch Daredevil Season 2 without having seen Daredevil Season 1. But if you watch each of them, it's like getting two different books. It's closer to the world of the graphic novel than it is to the world of the ongoing, serialized show. Casting. At the end of May 2014, Charlie Cox was cast as Daredevil. Cox was the first choice for the role, suggested by Quesada in 2012 before Marvel Studios gained the rights to the character from 20th Century Fox. On June 10, Marvel announced that Vincent D'Onofrio would portray Wilson Fisk, Kingpin in the series. And on June 20, Rosario Dawson joined the cast. A few days later, Eldon Henson was cast as Foggy Nelson, while on July 17, Deborah Ann Woll was cast as Karen Page. On October 11, Dawson's role was revealed to be Claire Temple, a character resembling that of Night Nurse, while Islet Jura, Bob Gunton, Toby Leonard Moore, and Bondi Curtis Hall joined the series as Vanessa Mariana, Leland Owlsley, James Wesley, and Ben Urich, respectively. In June 2015, Marvel announced that John Bernthal was cast as Frank Castle, Punisher for the second season, joining Season 1 return as Cox, Woll, Henson, Dawson and D'Onofrio. The next month, Elodie Young was cast as Elektra Natchios, a character that had been mentioned already in the first season. In September 2015, Stephen Ryder joined the cast in the role of Blake Tower. On the casting process, Denite stated that, "You just have to hope you find the right way. Luckily our cast came together, and I couldn't have been happier. No one will ever perfectly fit what's in your head. For me, the more important thing is not whether or not they look the part, but if they feel the part." Larry Mayfield and Julie Schubert served as casting directors on the series. Title sequence. The opening title sequence was created by Elastic. The company previously created the title sequence for True Detective, which had stood out to the creators in terms of imagination and delivering on what the show was about. Denite explained that multiple companies had made pitches to the creative team involving variations of the same idea, where you zoom in on an eye and you see a sonar map of the city. However, one of Elastic's pitches had fluid like blood dripping over everything, as if paint were covering something invisible and revealing it, which both Denite and Loeb wanted to use immediately. Elastic's creative director Patrick Clare came up with the idea of making a red world that was revealed by liquid, simulating the CG liquid, which was meant to be an ambiguous reference to poison, and blood that behaved like something in between liquid chocolate and tar, was difficult. With Claire saying, "It's hard to make an algorithm act insidious." CG lead Andrew Romatz elaborated that, developing the right consistency and behavior of the fluids was definitely a tricky process. Getting the scale to feel right was something that we had to play with quite a bit in simulation, and also in lighting and texturing. Patrick wanted the sculptures we were forming to feel like miniatures, so we did a lot of experimenting with scene scale and with camera settings, simulating depth of field to achieve that look. Fluids lead Miguel A. Salek stated that each shot required custom flow maps to be painted on the sculptures, along with small attraction fields and thousands of tiny adjustments to achieve the shapes and behavior Patrick was looking for. In the end, I simulated hundreds of tests and thousands of frames of fluids to achieve just the right balance for each shot. Due to time constraints, references to Murdoch's boxing history such as a punching bag and boxing ring were cut from the final sequence. The final sequence was animated to a temp track, an old piece of 90s trip-hop, before John Pisano's music for the sequence was completed. Filming for the series takes place in New York City, in areas of Brooklyn and Long Island City that still look like the old Hell's Kitchen. In addition to soundstage work, the production has an 8-day per episode shooting schedule. On the feel of the show, Denight stated, "We're going for a gritty, 1970s, New York feel for the show. We love the idea of beauty and the decay of the city, and Hell's Kitchen being a place that's both beautiful and gritty at the same time. And that's why Matt Murdock loves it and wants to protect it." The series' action sequences take inspiration from the Raid films. Music. It was revealed that John Pisano would be composing the music for the series in October 2014. The main theme of the series, which was co-composed by Braden Kimball, is derived from Pisano's original demo for the series, which he submitted during the auditioning process. Pisano noted that it is rare for such material to be incorporated into a final score like this. A soundtrack album for the first season was released on iTunes on April 27, 2015, and for the second season on July 15, 2016. Marvel Cinematic Universe tie-ins. Daredevil is the first of the ordered Netflix series, and is followed by Marvel's Jessica Jones, Marvel's Luke Cage, and Marvel's Iron Fist, before leading into the mini-series Marvel's The Defenders. In November 2013, Disney CEO Bob Iger stated that if the characters prove popular on Netflix, it's quite possible that they could become feature films, which Sarandos echoed in July 2015. In August 2014, D'Onofrio stated that after the series stuff with Netflix, Marvel has a bigger plan to branch out. In December 2014, Loeb explained that, within the Marvel Universe there are thousands of heroes of all shapes and sizes, but the Avengers are here to save the universe and Daredevil is here to save the neighborhood. It does take place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's all connected, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we would look up in the sky and see Iron Man. It's just a different part of New York that we have not yet seen in the Marvel movies. Dawson later elaborated that, when you've got that level of superpowers, the fighting is different. The stakes are different, and it has a grander feel. In that world, they exist in it, so they know it and it's normal to them. But in reality, when people are fighting and doing really bad, illicit, sick crimes on the ground and there are guns and drugs, bones are going to break. People aren't hitting each other and nothing's going to happen, because they're indestructible. These are people. They're vulnerable and you get to experience that. In March 2015, Loeb spoke on the ability for the series to cross over with the MCU films and the ABC television series, saying, "As it is now, in the same way that our films started out as self-contained and then by the time we got to the Avengers, it became more practical for Captain America to do a little crossover into Thor 2, and for Bruce Banner to appear at the end of Iron Man 3. We have to earn that. The audience needs to understand who all of these characters are, and what the world is, before you then start commingling in terms of where it's going." In April, Cox stated that crossing over with the films is possible. I think there's a way that the worlds can merge. I think our show feels tonally and thematically a bit different from the Avengers movies, but it's all one universe. And I feel like there's a way for Daredevil, and other characters, Luke Cage, and street-level crime characters, to fit into that universe. I think there has to be a way. And I think it's about finding an autonomous tone for that crossover film. Cox also said that he is contractually obligated to appear in films if asked by Marvel. Release: Daredevil is available on the streaming service Netflix, in all territories where it is available, in Ultra HD 4K and high dynamic range. The first 2 seasons were enhanced to be available in HDR after their initial release by post-production vendor Deluxe. The episodes for each season were released simultaneously, as opposed to a serialized format, to encourage binge watching, a format which has been successful for other Netflix original series. Daredevil was the first Netflix original series to receive its descriptive video service audio description track. Marketing: Disney Consumer Products created a small line of products to cater to a more adult audience, given the show's edgier tone. Paul Gitter, Senior VP of Marvel Licensing for Disney Consumer Products, explained that the focus would be more on teens and adults than very young people, with products at outlets like Hot Topic. Additionally, a Marvel Knights merchandise program was created to support the series, which creates new opportunities for individual product lines and collector-focused products. Licensing partners wanted to pair up with Marvel, despite this not being a film project, given its previous successes. Critical response: the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reported a 98% approval rating for the first season, based on 51 reviews, with an average rating of 8/10. The website's critical consensus reads, with tight adherence to its source material's history, high production quality, and a no-nonsense dramatic flair, Daredevil excels as an effective superhero origin story, a gritty procedural, and an exciting action-adventure. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned a score of 75 out of 100, based on 22 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. The second season has a 76% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, based on 32 reviews, with an average rating of 7.3. The site's critical consensus reads, bolstered by some impressive action, Daredevil keeps its footing in Season 2. Even if the additions of Punisher and Elektra can't quite fill the void left by Wilson Fisk. On Metacritic, it has a score of 68 out of 100, based on 13 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Other media. In November 2015, an update for the mobile fighting game, Marvel Contest of Champions, was released, featuring a 6-part story quest involving Daredevil and Jessica Jones, along with a level based on Hell's Kitchen. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.